The dynamic panel is one of the most powerful widgets in Axure. With it, we can quickly create dynamic content. There are two ways to add a dynamic panel. The first is by dragging a dynamic panel widget from the library. A dynamic panel is a container that holds content through states. To enter a specific state of a dynamic panel, double-click it. You'll see an action bar appear at the top. To add content to this state, drag a widget from the library into it. The other way to create a dynamic panel is by right-clicking a widget and selecting Create Dynamic Panel. Let's adjust the size of the dynamic panel. You'll notice that the Fit to Content option is unchecked, as the dynamic panel is currently larger than its content. The dashed line represents the dynamic panel's dimensions. If we check Fit to Content, the dynamic panel will resize to fit its content exactly. Now we'll drag another widget into the dynamic panel and adjust its height to be smaller than the content. Then select Scroll as needed, so that if there is more content, it will scroll. Preview the prototype and you'll see that it scrolls vertically. If we select Never Scroll instead, the content won't scroll in the preview. To add a new state, click the Add State button in the State dropdown and drag in a rectangle. To duplicate a button, click the Duplicate a button. To rename a state, click the Edit button, then enter the new state name. We'll change the dynamic panel's background color to black and select 100% wide browser only. Preview the prototype and you'll see that both sides of the rectangle have turned black. This feature is often used when creating a top navigation bar. Then move the rectangle outside of the dashed line. Preview the prototype and you'll see the top part of the dynamic panel is hidden. Now, set the background of the dynamic panel to transparent and select Fit to Content. Preview the prototype again, and the rectangle content is fully visible. If we uncheck Fit to Content, only the content within the dashed line is visible. Next, let's use interactions to change the dynamic panel states. Drag in a heading and set the text to Previous. Then drag in another heading and set the text to Next. Create pagination buttons labeled 1, 2, and 3. Add a click interaction to the Previous button, setting the dynamic panel state to Previous. If we check Wrap from first to last, the panel states can loop. Then add an animation. Copy the interaction to the Next button, changing Previous to Next. In the same way, we'll set the state of button 1 to A, button 2 to B, and button 3 to C. Preview the prototype. When we click the Previous button, the rectangle switches to the previous state. When we click a pagination button, the rectangle changes to the corresponding state. When we click the Next button, the rectangle switches to the next state. Back in Axure, uncheck 100% wide. Preview the prototype again. and you'll see the rectangle transitions within the boundaries of the dynamic panel.